it's sitting and waiting for someone else to decide your fate, man. I think we're on the document verification phase of this whole thing. So hopefully that's get us, that can go relatively quick. Goal anyhow. But all right, so we're here. It's the illusion and Stuart. What do we call this thing? Geopolitical illusion, dude. We're here. You're looking sharp. Yellow tie, blue jacket, symbolic color.
You know, that was not at all symbolic, but yeah, that just happened.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't even realize, but yeah, kind of fitting.
yeah. So we finally tracked each other down. Normally we do Saturday, but we couldn't because I was watching a movie with Owl. We were watching some superheroes, and then we tried for Sunday, but you were asleep. So are you almost done with your thesis, or?
Basically, it kind of depends on how you view it. So I have about 2.5 chapters left to do, which to some people sounds like a lot in the end of the world. For me, that is extremely manageable and will be done over the summer.
Okay.
So the plan is to have the whole thing submitted, which will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chapters, to have the whole thing submitted at the end of October.
And what exactly is your thesis again?
So the broad overarching theme is the idea of transnational elites and military power, and specifically military technologies, who is responsible for creating the technologies and then selling them to the populations of their countries as peace-bringing bombs, love bombs, democratic robots, this sort of stuff.
Dude, talk about it. Talk about a great time to be doing that. Right? I mean, it's right in front of us all.
Yeah. So I just did my methodology, where you're basically saying, I have a theory of how this works. How am I going to test the theory? And I went through and found a bunch of case studies that I can do, essentially. Sent it to my advisor, and he essentially said, yeah, I've never heard of any of this stuff. So you basically have the foundations of 2 books here ready to write, because no one has looked at any of these different departments, agencies within both the US government and NATO. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, which took me just a couple of weeks really to find. But yeah, there's a lot going on in this realm of technical militarism and pushing the world in this robotic artificial intelligence direction, which is completely not studied right now.
No, so, come on, no one's studying this? You mean you're pioneering something like
yeah, that's the plan.
That's sort of that dumbfounds me in a weird way.
There are people that look at kind of some of the companies that are involved and that sort of thing, but no one's really looked at any of these government agencies and these different departments within NATO and the US government. There was one that I found, I don't remember the name of it, but if you do a Google search for it, on the whole of Google, you find about 5 results for this one office, but it exists, it is there, it's doing things. But apparently no one's ever asked the question precisely, what is it doing?
What is this office you speak of?
Let me try and find the name of it. Because yeah, there were so many in the end that my advisor was like, yeah, you're gonna have to pass this down a little.
And so these are agencies within these big organizations, NATO.
Yeah, within the American government and within NATO.
And I'm sure they have quaint names that
let me just
dispel what they might like, the Office of Internal Dialogue of High Longevity or something.
Yeah, there's one, I think this is the one that only had a few searches. Yeah, the Office of the Executive Director for International Cooperation.
Oh, yeah,
And
that
it
writes
has
itself.
its vision statement is, quote, enable a lethal, secure, and networked constellation of allies and partners.
Lethal, right off the bat.
Yeah, don't even try to hide it, cover it up at all.
Well, that's the rub, right? Is everybody's in total denial as to the nature of the beast, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is that thing. You know what? It's the parable or whatever it is about the frog and the scorpion, right? Like we expect these entities and agencies and to be exactly what they aren't.
Exactly right. Yeah, this is the point that my advisor really wants me to get across, that these guys sit down and they talk and they discuss and they have all these meetings and plans and objectives to achieve these goals, which really boils down to how do we kill people more efficiently? That really is ultimately what it is. And there's another one here. In fact, where'd that go? The Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs. This is supposed to do the policies, plans, and activities and use the resources engaged in encouraging the development of military capabilities. That's first on this list. Then constitutional democracy and respect for human rights, including civilian control of the military, institutionalizing an appropriate role for the military, and encouraging the development of military professionalism that promotes respect for civilian authorities and human rights. So yeah, there's just tons of these.
Well, that's a real convoluted mission statement. I mean, that's a lot of this. We're not doing that. It's this. Yeah, I think that's what we're up against, is people are still in this childlike mind about who and what governments do and government organizations do. And you know, that's the thing. I remember trying to break off some stuff about democide, you know, and you're more likely to be smoked by your government as a human being than anything else, really, of an unnatural cause of death, you know. And I think that people are completely naive as to what a government will and will not do. They definitely do not have our best interests at heart, any of them.
Nope. I go through a couple more of these if you want. A couple of them.
Oh yeah, I like the word salads. These are
yeah, they're really interesting to break down and look at on this more critical level. Let's do two from NATO. So NATO has the Supreme Allied Commander, right? It also has, which is relatively unknown, the Supreme Allied Commander Transformation. That's the term. That's this guy's title, not of transformation, just the Supreme Allied Commander Transformation. So again, word salad going on here. But what is this guy's job? Because it is on equal pairing with the actual commander of the military forces in NATO as well.
But this is a civilian.
No, this is a military.
Okay.
Military man. Yeah. The Supreme Allied Commander of Transformation leads efforts to explore new concepts and doctrines by conducting experiments and supporting the R&D and acquisition of new technologies and capabilities, while carrying the responsibility for NATO's training and education programs designed to ensure the alliance has at its disposal staffs trained in common NATO standards, capable of operating effectively in combined forces. So what it's essentially saying is, I am the leader of creating technologies that bring the world's militaries under one banner called NATO. And my job is to ensure that all of these militaries work together for the purposes of NATO. not to work for the interests of their own individual countries, but to work together as this unit of an international military force instead. So yeah, that's one in NATO. There's another one. Let me see if I can find this. Yeah, oh, wait a second. Maybe that's the wrong one. I got so many quotes and these things in here. Yeah, the Science and Technology Organization within NATO, which apparently includes 6,000 scientists and a total of 200,000 experts that are involved in this thing. So a hell of a lot of people involved in this particular
People
alliance.
are getting paid.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, it's to safeguard alliance freedom and shared values. It is of critical importance for NATO and its partner nations to maintain the edge in defense and security. Discovering, developing, and utilizing advanced knowledge and cutting-edge science and technology is fundamental to maintaining the technological edge that has enabled Allied forces to succeed across the full spectrum of operations over the past decades. So yeah, all this sort of stuff.
So you're saying that Putin's an alarmist, that he's faking a reason to be concerned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely not. When you start digging into this stuff, there's a lot going on here, and importantly for that one, the Science and Technology Organization, they actually said in that quote, for NATO and its partner nations. Ukraine was one of those partner nations.
Sure. That's
not an official member of the alliance, but an official partner.
Well, no, you get that's the game right now. It's very interesting, because with the last one you were talking about had the thing about talking about doctrine, right? Their doctrine of how they're going to engage with said threats, because they're not enemies, they're threats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because everyone's gotten real weird about Putin's doctrine right now, or the Russian doctrine, which Putin designed in the 80s, right? Is this nuclear engagement to my favorite word? They like existential threats, right? And so, I think that people misunderstand, or the naivety of people to not understand that these people have actually implemented they haven't implemented the doctrines, but they have implemented the practice to apply these doctrines, right? And these doctrines, and for them, I think when you hear the word doctrine, I don't think people understand. It's like, that's their path towards killing people, like their lethal engagement protocols, if you will. And these aren't suggestions.
No, this is 200,000 people around the world working towards this. There's another one, the Science for Peace and Security. So again, of course, just the name on the tin. Interestingly, I didn't know this until looking into this stuff, but Switzerland is a partner nation of NATO. So much for that neutrality idea for Switzerland. Definitely not the case. They have lists of all these countries and the different things that they're doing. Places as completely kind of spread out across the world as you can imagine, but they're all working towards these shared aims for NATO as an institution.
Yeah, it's a very, when you really look at it, it's this hostile lower dimensional set of beings, right? They are very hostile towards human life, and it's where I think how they're getting away with it is most people aren't psychopaths, so they don't understand. These people have no empathy. Like when Madeleine Albright just passed, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think that people truly grasp who and what she was about, because she just looks like some little pudgy old lady, right? Mm-hmm. that woman was a stone cold killer of children. No ifs.
Wait a second. Killing those children, that was the right thing to do for Iraq. Remember?
Well, of course it is. If it's going to achieve our aims written down in our doctrine of supremacy against non-compliant threats, right? So when I that's where like when people give me the whole like, why can't we just be positive and like and I go, we can be, but you have to be willing to acknowledge the pit bull in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a pit bull in the room, and it's got one eye open and it falls asleep, and it's pretty well fed because it eats up a lot of these third world countries. But now the pit bull has been practicing, and it's ready to turn on its owner from what I can tell. And here we are. The more and more, I think it goes back to, if we look at the case study, right, is when this first kicked off, I'm a little bit absolutely not surprised at what's going on. If I was, and I take it from that perspective, is it doesn't seem like there's a madman on the other side of the wall over there. It seems like there's a dude who's rightfully on the aggressive about what's going on and trying to play. They want to have doctrine. He's like, talk's cheap, dude. Let me flex on you. And I think that ultimately he's achieved his goals, which is to call bluff on their doctrine. And I'm still like, again, as I don't believe that there are any nuclear weapons that are capable of doing what they say on the planet in those terms of nuclear, what we view nuclear weapons to be. Do I view there's big bombs? Yeah. But I think that he's called the bluff. I'm going to go back to the same thing I said 6 weeks ago, was that dude's not playing. He's not crazy. He sees the writing on the wall, and the West is pretty limp because I think he knows that there's no nuclear bombs, and that's why he's flexing. Is like, you guys can't do this, because in order to engage in this protracted warfare without the nukes, right? Without the nukes, the quagmire that is Eastern Europe is essentially forever drones and shoulder fired missiles and man pads and people killing each other, and eventually just a giant no man's land where his big bluff was, which got everyone going, was the World War III bluff. Well, this is going to be over real quick because he's going to World War III. And then he's just like, well, I'll just send my supersonic missiles like within, 15 miles of the border. Now what? The West seems terrified to me on a certain level. I mean, what's your take on what's going on? Because we're 6 weeks deep into this, and I think both you and I thought this was going to be a 2-week turnaround.
Yeah, I think definitely run into some issues over there. I think one of the big things that they didn't realize is that they would be fighting a modern war. I think that there was a lot of hubris in terms of, we just did this in Syria and it went fantastically. Yeah. Well, good. That's, like we said before, all fun and games, shooting at people from a fighter jet who is shooting at you with an AK-47. You're going to win every time. But like you said, when someone has the Stinger or a Javelin, and they're dropping your tanks and dropping your helicopters and jets out of the sky, it becomes a whole different game, definitely. Where we are right now, perhaps in the end phases of this, looks like they're pulling back from Kiev, trying to give up on that potentially, perhaps settling for just those contested eastern regions of the country, plus Crimea. But again, could that all just be a big ruse? Could there be a massive Russian attack tomorrow morning? Yes, you could absolutely wake up to that as well. I don't think you can even accurately predict at this point where it's going to go. Just because of how it started, I don't think anyone really predicted it was going to go as far as it did. But yeah, overall, not a fantastic situation. And the latest number I saw was now 4 million refugees out into the wider world thanks to this.
Well, what the interesting thing that I see is what is victory, right? What is success? And I think in it maybe, so there seemed to have been a sacrificial lamb aspect of what was going on with the Russian invasion. It seemed to be the C team he sent in. It seemed to be a lot of their funky equipment got smoked. But they say, like, the last estimate I heard, roughly 1,000+ pieces of armored hardware got taken out. But that got taken out but that, in a weird way, he just nullified the entire NATO military defense. Like, he just said, but what's going on is, like, yeah, you guys have all this armament over here that you've invested your treasure in. It's useless now. So tank warfare has been nullified as an actual form of tactical warfare. Like, it's off the table, right? So yeah, Putin's looks like he's getting smoked because he's lost all this stuff. But you know who really got smoked? All the dudes who have fully intact tanks and hardware that's sitting there being like, well, that isn't going to do us any good, because it's a turkey shoot. That works both ways, that hardware thing, right? So I think, in a weird way, if you look at, and I think the other thing that you have is interesting is it fully displays, hypocrisy is not the word, is the warmongering nature of the West, right? So if what it looks like it's going to happen at this stage today is that everything that Putin asked for originally is going to be what they're willing to give to him to stop this thing, except that it got rebelized, and all these refugees are now a burden to these other countries. You have all this infrastructure problem. You have this grain issue, this food supply issue. So he got essentially the West to cut off its nose to spite its face, and he's going to get what he wanted. And there's no, it's Russia. They can roll those numbers right up into under the carpet with, like, what everyone's like a big deal. What, 7,000-10,000 soldiers? That's nothing in the Russian mentality. What they lose at Stalingrad, like million, right? Million plus, it's huge numbers, dude. So to them, I think they've on a warboard level, it looks like they've lost. But I say, on the bigger thing, I think they've absolutely exposed the West for, like, they don't have a court. The doctrines you read, like the doctrines you read, he kind of nullified them all. Like, you guys didn't, all your little 200,000 people in your little think tanks working together couldn't do anything about me and my tanks because I was willing to sacrifice them. I think that's where people don't really understand. Like, I think people operate from this battle, like, think about all the games they gave us, right? Stratego, Battleship, Risk, chess, all these games, right? But if you really are a chess player, it's all about being able to sacrifice your pawns, man, and sacrifice these chess pieces to open up the thing. And I think that the average person's patheticness is, like, they all want to, like, make sure everything stays. They don't want to lose a tank. I've been arguing, dude, it looked from Jump Street that he was willing to lose a huge chunk of it, dude. I mean, I don't know. I just can't get. I will say that I don't know if the real generals are dying or all this thing, but that would seem to be the downside if he's lost some pretty high commanding people in his military. But maybe not. Who knows what's going on? I think he's exposed the West for you look at the West is pulling back on this thing media wise. They don't want to touch it anymore, because what's going to come out is the war crimes are going to be pretty brutal on in the Ukrainian side. Like, it's already starting to leak out that they've been executing surrendered soldiers and all sorts of things, dude. And everybody's like, oh, you can't, like, they've been committing war crimes from Jump Street by forcing those soldiers to speak publicly, man, according to the Geneva Convention.
There was that one video that came out on Sunday where the Ukrainians were shooting captured Russians in the leg. And yeah, kneecapping them and all this sort of stuff.
Well, guaranteed. I mean, again, it's where I think people are not really paying attention to the rules, because everyone likes to be about the rules of war, is that those territorial defense forces aren't technically military organizations, and they're just basically like people running around in a loose band, and they don't have to subscribe to these rules of engagement. That's only for enlisted military, patched up, roll called people, man. Those civilian defense forces, they can do anything they want. They just got to get caught doing it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the real reason why us as a species needs to get away from militarism. In other words, using military power to achieve your objectives, that needs to go away. All you need to do is take a look at any of these cities. Nothing has been achieved here on either side, except complete destruction of places and peoples. I, again, would mention definitely not a pacifist. I think if we're on the defensive against an invasion, well, we need to come at that with some force if we've got it. But if we can avoid this entirely, I think that's the way to go as a species, because otherwise we don't really get ourselves anywhere.
I'm with you on that. Well, there was funny. You sent me that one clip last week of the people in that city turning back the trucks and protesting and stuff. And I argue that's what they should have done from Jump Street, was let them roll in, let their logistical supply chain stretch out, and literally just be like, there's no coffee for you. And now what are you going to do? And let's party. Let's get the rave going. Let's get we're going to get the loudspeakers out. We're going to start bumping this joint, and you guys can stay in your tanks, or you can come over here and take the Molly with us, and let's get freaky, dude. Like, yeah, it seems to me that was that again, that's where, like, I think that it was a great trap. I think that one of the exposures on it is the West isn't a bunch of democratic, peaceful, mellow people, man. We're a war-hungry, malevolent society that has not faced the truth of itself, and that's why the war continues to think. Because if what you're reading, that is us as taxpayers are funding those organizations, and we don't want to look. We don't want to read these doctrines. We don't want to see the truth that we are that as human beings right now.
How can we kill people as quickly and as efficiently as possible? How can we use the latest technologies to do this and wrap it all up in peace and security and democracy and hope and love? All this sort of stuff, all this rhetoric.
Well, I think, again, as the universe gives us some real thing, is because whether you thought it was real or fake or whatever, we saw it in real time on with this thing with the Fresh Prince, right? You had a dude, and again, I don't know if it's real or not. I don't care. But what I think is what I get into is the fact that somebody went and supposedly assaulted another human being in public at a big thing. That person was not protected. So let's say that this is what it is in a macro micro, right? Chris Rock was the Ukraine. Will Smith was Putin. Chris Rock's Putin poking the bear with all the Donetsk and all that stuff. Putin comes as in Will Smith, slaps him publicly in front of the world. Chris Rock's up there. NATO doesn't come in, which would be security, the Academy Awards Association, the crowd. Nobody comes to Chris Rock's defense. And again, I think it was staged, but nobody shows up. Even if you're in the audience and you don't know what's going on, the fact that nobody in the audience was like, hey, stop. What are you doing? This is wrong. So the fact that all these peacenik, liberal, woke bullshit artists didn't say a word in real time and go, hey, that's wrong. And then 15 minutes later, that dude gives up and delivers the speech that we're just talking about it. I'm fighting for the family. I'm about love. I want to be a lover, dude, and all that. And God made me do it. And all this hyperbole, that is what is actually going on in the West. That dude, Will Smith, with his speech is the EU, the West, NATO. Oh, we just want to be loved. We just want to be democracy. We just had all this go on, and now we're going to disguise like violence as love, like it's for you, dude. I'm doing it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's very revealing of that was a very revealing kind of incident in light, because they definitely use it as a distraction on what was going on in the Ukraine, because they need to get the media out of there.
Yeah, I think that whole event and the international focus that it's gotten over the past 2 days now is really the symptom of the wider problem that nobody actually really cares about anything that matters, and instead allows themselves to be distracted by all this sort of crap on the side.
Nobody truly cares about the Ukrainians. Like, let's be like, you and I might actually care about it because we're like somewhat indifferent to it, because we see that they're just cogs in a machine and they fell for the trap, dude. They got convinced to destroy their country for the West, and the West shined them on, dude. Like, shined them on. Like, any country that thinks the West is going to come back their play is sorely mistaken, unless they have something they want, right? Mm-hmm. But Ukraine didn't have anything they wanted except to get out of the way, right? I think the West wanted the Ukraine rebelized, dude, for their own objectives.
Well, it's done wonders for Lockheed's stock price at the very least.
Yeah.
So yeah, the military-industrial complex getting a lot out of this. You probably heard of Smedley Butler, right?
Yeah, Smedley Butler.
Do you ever read his little extended essay, War is a Racket?
Sure.
Yeah, I got some interesting quotes from that here that I think we could look at, and there might be an interesting thing to talk about in relation to the rest of this. His whole thing, for those of you that don't know, General Smedley Butler, he goes to war, and he comes back from the war, and he essentially has a complete change in view of what has happened after he goes around and starts visiting the military hospitals, which are now filled up with all of these young men, which are essentially destroyed. They're physically and psychologically destroyed. And he looks back at Europe and says, well, what was the point in this? What were we trying to achieve here? Have we achieved it? And the answer he kind of comes to is no. And he publishes this thing called War is a Racket, which you can probably find online, which I would highly recommend everyone read. It only take you a couple of hours, to be honest. if that. And he talks about who provides the profits in war. And that, of course, is us. All of us, we provide the profits in war. And we do that through taxation, like you were just mentioning, Hamish. We give up all of our money. We give up our future fortune to go and blow other places and people up. But he says the soldier pays the biggest part of this bill. If you don't believe this, visit the American cemeteries on the battlefields abroad, or visit any of the veterans hospitals in the United States. They were put shoulder to shoulder and through mass psychology entirely changed. We used them for a couple of years, trained them to think nothing at killing or being killed, and they have become mentally destroyed. Physically, he says, some of them are in good shape, but mentally they are gone. So this is a real human cost, which I think people also don't think about either. It's really easy to look at the civilian harm and the civilian death and destruction, and absolutely be upset and angry about that, because you should be upset and angry about that. But you also got to think of the people that are fighting this as well, right? They all have families. They all have people that they know and love in the world. And we turn these mainly young men into machines, essentially. They're brainwashed and completely mentally destroyed, as Smedley Butler said, as a result of this stuff. Another thing he talks about, which is interesting along these lines, during the Civil War, soldiers were actually given an enlistment bonus of $1,200. This is replaced with medals or decoration. So he says, so by developing the Napoleonic system, the medal business, Napoleon came up with this idea. The government learned it could get soldiers for less money because the boys liked to be decorated. Until the Civil War, there were no medals. Then the Congressional Medal of Honor was handed out, and it made enlistment easier. And then interestingly, he goes into World War and what happened during the First World War. He says, in the World War, we used propaganda to make boys accept conscription, and they were made to feel ashamed if they did not join the army. So vicious was this war propaganda that even God was brought into it. With few exceptions, our clergymen joined in the clamor to kill, 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 to kill the Germans, because God is on our side. So yeah, this is a lot of stuff in here, which I think we really do see reflections of this playing out today. Last quote I'll mention. He says, beautiful ideals were painted for our boys who were sent out to die. This was the war to end all wars. This was the war to make the war safe for democracy. No one mentioned to them as they marched away that their going and their dying would mean huge war profits for the war industry, which emerges out of the world wars. So Smedley Butler really hit the nail on the head, and he hit it on the head many, many, many decades ago. I don't know the precise year when this was written, but we're probably looking at best part of 100 years ago. And still this system exists today. And this is what I believe is the central problem in the United States. And I don't know if you saw this, but the budget for the military for the coming year is now going to be over $800 billion, which is, and in terms of discretionary spending, it's like 800 billion for the military, about 600 billion for everything else that's discretionary spending. So look at your priorities. I think it might have been Joe Biden. He actually had a quote back when he was in Congress. And he said something like, if I want to know where someone's priorities are. I will look at their budget, because if they put their money where their mouth is, that's what they're serious about. And the US is serious about war. It's serious about blowing people up. It's serious about killing people. And this is a problem that most Americans, I don't think, know about or care about, or are just completely in this psychological brainwashing, this psychological rape, like C. Wright Mills says, that just convinces them that this is a good thing somehow. But yeah, it's pure insanity. And you look around the United States, you look at the crumbling infrastructure, no healthcare, terrible education outcomes in so many places in the United States. There's money, it's just not being spent where it needs to be spent. And I don't know how we change that, because we're almost at a point where I don't think you can change it, because there's so much power within these military industrial institutions that how do you reverse this system? So yeah, that's kind of a long-winded run through of Smedley Butler and where we are today. And
well, I mean, I think that, you know, if you like going back to even Smedley, is it's a trick, right? I think it comes from this thing is if you truly knew God, you couldn't let God, like them manipulate God into that equation. If you truly knew yourself, you couldn't manipulate yourself into that equation. I think that's why what you know, as two human beings who know that this is not the answer, that this is a futile practice, again, it's exposing it is to go the other way. And it's not stop it. As far as I'm concerned, like, if there was a nuke, they should light one off. Let's get it. Let's put it on display. Let's really take a good human look at what we are capable of. You know, there's a lot of talk about, like, that's Putin's dudes are in the bunker, and that's why he's pulling back from Kiev, is he's getting ready. And I go, good. Sucks if you're there, but again, is how about we stop beating around the bush with what it is, because nobody seems to care about the Yemenis. Nobody seems to care about the Somalis. Nobody seems to care about what's going on in Ethiopia's gotten pretty hot recently, you know, and that's where it is like, no, it's not okay, and it doesn't serve a purpose, but it does, because there's bigger wheels at play here. You know, the military industrial complex, they need they want their gas. They like their gas. You know, I don't see the jets not flying anymore because gas is now X number of dollars a gallon, right? Like, they're not.
There's some guy I follow on Twitter who posted something like this, but I think the Pentagon is explicitly exempt from all environmental regulation, or most environmental regulation.
In the United States, that's what I mean.
We'll make the world safe for peace and democracy, but we'll do it with depleted uranium and napalm. That's how we're going to do it.
Yeah, it's this thing where people just don't seem to grasp what it is, and it's not that far removed. It's right inside of each and every one of us. I think that's the big psyop here, is it's the boogeyman concept. And I do tend to think that, like, as I've said before, as a dude who's been fascinated by Putin for a long time, because there's something about the machismo. Like, let's just move away from the fact he's a World Economic Forum guy for just a minute, and let's just let these people be.
So I was doing some thinking on that. I think he's kind of a guy that he really wanted to join the Western club.
Oh, so yeah.
He really wanted to be accepted into these institutions. He even mentioned in that, did you see that long rambling speech he did on the Monday before the invasion? He said that he approached, I think it was Bill Clinton, and said, hey, I want to join NATO. So he actually wanted to enter into this system. But what actually ends up happening is, well, he's kept out of it because NATO needs an enemy. We can't have you in the club. We can kind of pretend you might be in the club on a few levels, but yeah, you can't join.
Well, you exactly it, man. I think he sat back and was like, wait a minute. So my role is, I think he read the script and it's like, wait a minute. It's like any good actor, right? He's like, wait, I get killed off in the first act.
Mm-hmm.
This is not, so he's like, I think there's a certain level to that. And I think that he is like, on one level, knows more about what's going on than we're giving him credit for. I tend to think that he is being very strategic. I know it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good on that level. But again, if I get into my alternate thinking about it, and I take my walk down, I am the evil general road, which Owl, just a second. What? No, dude, I'm on right now.
That's definitely a conflict that I am not qualified to talk about right there. And yeah, probably in some ways harder to figure out than the problems of the world, right? The problems with the children in front of you. But yeah, otherwise, everyone, good to be back on the stream here. Good to be talking to all of you, connecting with Hamish's audience. Thanks again to those of you that have reached out on my channel and left comments and stuff. That's been awesome to see. I could start going through a few other things here, actually. We'll see if Hamish comes back.
Oh, I'm back.
There he is. He's back.
Lost Lego part, dude.
Yeah, I was just saying that's probably a harder conflict to resolve than the one in Ukraine, the one between father and son sometimes.
Well, it's again that's the interesting thing about it is yeah, it's sometimes difficult, but it's also that thing of like, it is what it is, right? Like I am in charge. I have superior firepower. All right, so I gotta go lay out some superior firepower right now.
All right, no worries. I'll get into this stuff. So something that was interesting that I saw today. Let me just share this here. Wheat. The countries most dependent on Ukraine and Russia for their wheat imports. So this is data from 2021. We can see here that there are a lot of countries that are very dependent upon Ukraine and Russia for their wheat imports. Some of them practically 100%. Eritrea, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Somalia, Seychelles. All of these, you're way up there, right? Over 90% of their wheat comes from these two countries that are currently shooting at one another instead of growing food. Again, this problem of militarism goes far deeper than you could really ever imagine. And if we think about this on a broader level, and just look at all of these countries along this list, where they get most of their wheat from Russia and Ukraine. These places are not what we would call super advanced, developed first world nations. Lots of these places are really struggling on many, many levels. The last thing that a lot of these places on this graph need is a food problem. And right now we are potentially heading in that direction. So yeah, this, Hamish, is the countries that are most dependent upon wheat imports from Russia and Ukraine. and just going through some of these and thinking, yeah, these places really can't afford to be losing a lot of their wheat imports. And you can see some of them entirely dependent on Ukraine, some entirely dependent on Russia, some of it's a bit shared, some of them at least getting something from other places. But yeah, that's an interesting chart that I found. And then I decided to just go and look up a couple of these countries, a couple that have really high reliance upon Ukraine in particular, Eritrea and Mauritania. If you take a look at Mauritania here, and we look at some of these just general facts on the side, population, about 4.5 million. That was a couple of years ago. Probably take that up to, I don't know, probably just under 5 million today. GDP, we're looking at around 149th in the world per capita GDP. That means this is an extremely poor country. This is a place that is suffering. And if you come down here and we look at some of these places in Mauritania, this is the place that has now just perhaps lost, where'd that chart go? What's that? Probably about 20, 30, 40% of its food supply. Does this look like a place that can afford to lose 40% of its food supply? Absolutely not. And this is the case with a lot of these cities in Mauritania. All we need to do is just look at a few pictures of these places, and this is a disaster.
Can't they eat legumes?
Right? Yeah. Can't they eat bugs? Something like that, as someone from the World Economic Forum would probably chime in and say. But yeah, look at this place. This cannot afford to lose 40% of its wheat imports. Same for Eritrea. Again, if we just scroll down here, take a quick look at the facts. The per capita GDP, even smaller than Mauritania. So an even worse off country. Again, cannot afford to be losing a massive percentage. What was it for Eritrea? 20, 40, about almost 50% of its wheat imports. So yeah, lots of stuff is going on here, which is just a disaster on a level which you're not going to see the results of immediately. But when you do start to see the results, it's not going to be a pretty sight. Let's put it that way.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I've been saying that's where I get into the World Economic Forum aspect of this whole thing, that they're all in on it together. And they're just playing out a script so it doesn't look like it is the straight up malevolent, starving people to death thing, right? Because from what I understand, if they actually go and kill all these people, which they've as much as said they hope they die, then they have a karmic or a metaphysical price to pay, right? And so what better way than to provide cover and have everybody root for this? Like the West is rooting for this, weirdly enough, and saying this is great. And this should have been, the West should have been, every city in America should have had its entire population walk out and do a general strike and say the war stops right now. This enough. But we don't, and these other people who are not valuable in the Western mindset will pay the price, dude, of a brutal, harsh reality, man. And that the liberal left warmongering social justice woke crowd of Sean Penn and Hollywood gets to own that. And I think that's why they're pulling away from this thing as quick as they can with their lack of coverage. I tend to think if we roll that Putin's broken away from the script or read ahead, is he knows this, and he's like, all right, you guys want to play ball, How about I just destroy these ports and these ports? You're not going to get your grain out of here, even if you do plant. We're fine. We can absorb it into ourselves, dude. We'll trade it with whoever we want, man. And I think India seems to be, the largest democracy on the planet, doesn't seem to be buying into it either. They're not like, oh my God, to fight for democracy now. So it seems to me that there's something bigger going on here, from my perspective. And it's those doctrines you talked about. Like they have, that's where I think that people are naive, is these people have written down their plans. Like they're very serious. They're deadly serious about what they're doing, because that never needed to happen in the Ukraine. They never needed to be like that. But they trick those people into doing it to themselves, unfortunately. Because, right, if you looked at the opening, think about how long, it's like a month ago, 5 weeks ago, right? If you look at the opening 2 days of it, right? It was pretty much, they could have just let them roll right on by, right on through. But they convinced them. That's when they started dropping out the crates of weapons and handing out the little Molotov. They aren't handing out any more Molotov cocktail flyers anymore, are they, dude? No. Like, those days are gone. That the hip happening war is long gone now.
Yeah, I remember last time we spoke 2 and a bit weeks ago. That's when I noticed that the sport news started to be re-injected back into the 24-hour live streams. Well, all of a sudden we can start talking about tennis and basketball and whatever else again.
Well, I
that matters.
Well, I think it's that thing is they got to get it off of the. It doesn't look glamorous anymore. You know what I mean? Like, the first wave of it was sort of this, small guy against the big guy, the hero's journey. Like, yeah, we're standing up to the aggressor, and here we are, like 5 weeks later. It's a bunch of shell-shocked dudes in military fatigues standing around splintered trees and broken buildings and burnout cars, and there's no way you can glamorize that into, like, because it's like some bad Pink Floyd video, it's literally like, so what? Great, you repelled them. Now what? Now what are you gonna do? And that's where you get the because the psychological warfare, right? If you get into that whole thing that you like, the torture of the soldier, right? Where does that, once that uncorks, where does that stop? Why would you? Why would you not? If that came to my town, right? And if I, like, again, I walk in that, let me walk in their shoes for a minute. If that came to my town, I'm not letting you surrender. I'm taking you out back, man. You're done. Because now what do I have to live for, right? My village is gone. Maybe granny got smoked. My wife's over as a refugee in some country telling me horror stories about what's going on over there. Maybe I'm not even, I don't know. And I'm killing people, and everything's blowing up. So why am I stopping now? That's, to me, is where the glamorizing of this, wasn't going to buy into from the jump street, is there's nowhere to go with that anymore. I think they've launched a perpetual war over there, man.
Yeah, and I think where it goes, I don't think it ever goes anywhere, which is why veterans have so many mental problems after they get out, especially those that have seen active combat. Like what Smedley Butler was saying back in his day, but then you see it today as well with the suicide rate, the homelessness, all this sort of stuff. Is just a complete human disaster for those that don't make it away from the conflict and those that do make it away from the conflict. It's a disaster across the board. And you see well, what some of these people do, they join private military companies, this sort of thing. They become security guards, and that's somewhat of an outlet. Or they go and knock on the door of the Ukrainian embassy and say, how can we sign up? Which there have been lots of former British soldiers that I've seen doing that. Seen some stories about Americans trying to do it, but obviously a little trickier for an American to get all the way over there than someone in the UK. But yeah, it's just not good.
Well,
If war is your purpose, that's bad. That's very bad.
Where I think that where I take it a little bit, where I think why I will not about it is like, we as a society claim that we're against this thing, right? Let's just roll on the good guy, bad guy thing, the blue and yellow. We're against it. Okay, great. At the same time, the ads running on these platforms, right? Let's use the constant use of the word tactical. I saw something that was a tactical designed like sweatshirt, right? So they like to use this tactical belts, tactical this, and they got this proliferation of Navy SEAL making shorts, Navy SEAL selling books, Navy SEAL workouts, all this stuff. And I've been repulsed by the proliferation of snipers being glamorized in ad campaigns with their beard and their beard cream and their thing. Like, hey, look, I got respect for my brothers and sister in arms. I get it. But as a society, the promotion of anyone who's a sniper, I'm sorry, I can't. Anyone, like, I'm sorry, like I get it. It's a gnarly thing to become a Delta Force or Navy SEAL or whatever elite military unit at the end. But at the end of the day, you're not celebrating an educator. You're celebrating someone who took their skill set to be a killer of other human beings. And we're glamorizing that, going, that's a skill set that is, I go, no, that's not what we want our young human beings to grow up thinking is the path to success, is becoming a freaking Navy SEAL or a whatever it is, or a sniper or any of that. Like the promotion of the Jocko Weiland, it's the one who always comes to my mind. And all of these SEAL guys with their beards selling me smoothies and how-to books and living in lean-tos and
patriot coffee and all this sort of stuff.
I'm repulsed by it, and I always have been, because I go, no, dude, if you truly were a trained killer, then you would have enough respect for the people that you kill to STF you and go back and be a good parent and make sure your children don't need to do that as a profession. This glamorizing of private, what are they don't even call them mercenaries anymore. What are they? Operators.
Private military companies.
They like to call themselves operators and all this stuff. It's like, no, dude, you're an assassin and a killer. And let's be clear about it. What you're doing with your little beard and your cool, what are they? They didn't have any plates and your armored nonsense. Like, no, kick rocks. As a Second Amendment advocate and a big believer in all that stuff, it should not be glorified on any level. And
it never used to be either. If you look back at the prior wars, it's always the story that, well, grandpa doesn't want to talk about that, or grandpa was a cook, when actually he wasn't, right? He was actually in the front lines and he was getting shot out and saw people getting shot and this sort of stuff, but he just says, oh no, I was just the cook, because they don't want to talk about it, because it was a disaster and it isn't something that should be repeated, and they wanted to keep people out of it. But yeah, I think this whole thing, I kind of noticed it on a subliminal level, but I think the way that you articulate it, I think it could probably actually form the basis of an article, which I may try and write at some point. I think it has a lot of worth as a case study into this military psychosis which affects the United States.
No, I noticed it so much in the sense, and because I was like, there was as a dude who used to be pretty much on the patriot bandwagon, right? I don't know if I call myself that anymore. I don't know if I watch, because and why I say this is I go, all right, if they were ever going to show up, the big talkers, the preppers, the 2A people, the gung-ho, don't tread on me, the bearded military tactical, I was a sniper in Ramadi guys, right? I was in Iraq and this and that. I go, okay, you had your moment to show up right around 2 years ago. In fact, this week, 2 years ago, all the big talkers and I got my tactical this and my plates and my helmets with my ham radios and all my stuff, my tarpaulins and my knots and my paracord and my little knives and my boots. If you were truly everything you claim to have been, you would have showed up 2 years ago and put a lid on this scene that was called the coof, right? Shut it down. They didn't. They sat and they tried it. They sat and they just melted back into the thing and figured out how to sell some shorts and some nonsense. So I don't roll with those dudes anymore. I'm not down with the fake patriots. I'm not down with the Gadsden flag bullshitters, man. And I'm tired of the militarized thing of America, because they don't talk it. They do talk it. They don't walk it, because they should have showed up 2 years ago and protected us all from this malevolent medical tyranny, but they didn't. They let it happen. And they were more than happy to let it happen, because they're busy selling themselves, dude, to BlackRock and Blackwater, Black whatever, this op or that op or whatever it is, because at the end of the day, war is big business, and these scumbags have figured out a way to capitalize on it. And you know what? They didn't have to go stick a bayonet in the side of some crazy dude in Iwo Jima, dude, in some cave. They got to do it from 150 yards or an iPad or some shoulder powered thing, dude. They didn't have to go and grunt it out on some beach somewhere with 10,000 dudes squirming with their guts hanging out, dude. The glamorizing war thing sucks, dude, and I'm over it. I don't like it, man. And I don't like what's going. I didn't like when they tried to glamorize this thing over in the Eastern Ukraine either, man, because they're playing right into the hands of the big pharma, big agra, big gunslingers, dude. These people are evil, man.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, because that's really what it is. It's the glamorization of killing people.
Like I always tell them, man, like I remember like sitting on acid with that kid up on Mars Hill in Flagstaff, that young dude who I met because all the dudes were coming back from Iraq, and sitting up there with them. And I just met that guy that night. Like we chipped off and went to watch the sunrise, and him, like, as the sun was rising, telling me his story about killing a dude in a bar fight as a young man and getting the choice to join the Marines. And he's like, the irony now is I got 23 kills, dude. I accidentally killed a dude in a bar fight. Now I'm a trained killing sniper, dude. That dude was not stoked as the sun was rising over eastern Arizona, as the landscape was melting, as he was sitting there telling me his story. That wasn't a dude who was like, yeah, this is bitching, dude. That was a dude who's like, this sucks. And I got to carry this burden forever. So I don't know if I even believe those dudes much, to tell you the truth, man.
Yeah.
I think the dudes who did the real killing are pretty quiet about it. I think these grandiose selling me tactical shorts guys are not real, dude.
Yeah, you'll get the few people though that do join because they want an opportunity to kill people. Those people also do exist.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Like, and good for them. I don't have a problem with that. Like, I don't have a problem with the dude who's got written on his chest, I want to be a killer, and I joined the sniper squad. Like, fair enough, dude. But I don't want him coming back to me like trying to sell it to our children that this is rad. Exactly. Like, no, like, I love blood sport, and I got to get my socks off and pick off indiscriminate third world people from 1,000 yards. And it was bitching, dude. Like, all right, man. Like, how, look, you're talking to a dude who believes that being a sniper is a war crime, dude. Like, I think you should have to face your enemy, man. I don't think you should be able to hide in a ghillie suit up in the thing and snipe people. That ain't fair.
Well, literally all those departments we looked at the start of this thing, they're all trying to find out ways to kill people with robots. They want the people removed entirely. And yeah, we'll just have the robots doing it. Then we'll be far past the point where Einstein said the pioneers of a warless world is a youth that refuses military service, because we won't need a youth for military service, because we'll have the robots that are walking around and killing people as they see fit. So that's where we're headed.
Well, I think that was the missed opportunity for this thing. Like I always try to keep this on in the thing is Ukraine started 48 hours after Trudeau backed down on his emergency order up in Canada to the peaceful, nonviolent trucker protest that lasted almost as long as, a month, right? We had seen what happens when the ants rise up. We had gotten a really good look at it. And this to me was choreographed to the core to get people to change their ability to like go up.
Let me just insert something quickly there, because some people might misconstrue what you're trying to say. There are PR companies that exist in the world that look at all of these current sorts of goings on, and their entire reason for existence is, how do we spin this into something that is beneficial for the people that we work for? Who do they work for? The political, the military, and the economic elites is who they work for. So they will take any crisis like this and they will absolutely spin it in a way that will try to remedy other problems in society or distract from other problems in society, like in Canada and like in the UK. I don't know if we actually mentioned this on a discussion or whether you saw it or not, but Boris Johnson, his whole government was exposed for the fact that it had multiple parties in number 10 Downing Street, the equivalent of the White House for Britain, while the rest of the country was supposed to be in lockdown. Boris Johnson and his cronies were partying away. And that was turned into a massive scandal. And yeah, this came along and could be perfectly crafted into such a way that totally distracts from that issue and gets people's attention somewhere else, takes the heat off of the elites when they are finding it a little too hot in the kitchen.
Well, it's also that thing is it's funny because I think we had done a live stream the Sunday before it all kicked off, and we had been talking, and I think we'd even 2 weeks before that had been talking about the Ukraine, because it wasn't a surprise. Like, that's the interesting thing about, that's more what I mean about this thing is they literally like rolled all that armament and stuff into place once the trucker convoy began. Like, it was very much, to me, as a guy who's, call me a little bit paranoid about it, if that's the word, or conspiratorial or whatever, it seemed to be a little bit coincidental how it all unrolled. And it unrolled to me in a very choreographed way, to the point where like it was just sitting there. And I think that, we were even talking about it, is you could say that it's been sitting there ready to spark off since 2014. That's where I think people are like, haven't really checked in. As you go look in at what was going on in 2014, it was full-blown warfare. It just wasn't getting that kind of a play, And so, I remember all that, dude, them fighting at the airport. And the war that was pretty saucy back in 2014. I think I was making videos about it. And it's just too convenient that the tanks rolled in across the Ukrainian border 2 days after a fellow World Economic Forum buddy exposes the tyrannical powers of a free democratic country, right? To a peaceful free democratic country. And I can't let that one go, because now that's that stuff's way in the past now. Like, that might as well have been 10 years ago when that trucker convoy was going down. But that exposed the emperor has no clothes, because literally you can go shut down the entire North America by blocking a bridge in Detroit and Windsor, right? And I looked at it and I go, the Ukrainian people, if only they had their spiritual cards in order, would have looked over at what was going on in Canada and just been like, the way that we beat these dudes is to do nothing. Absolutely stare at them. Just stare at them, turn on that terrible womp music and break out the booze and the drugs and the swimsuits and get freaky, dude. And every one of those little conscript soldiers would have lasted about 5 days and been like, you know what? This is stupid, dude. And they would have gotten the orders to start, and they would have been like, we ain't hurting these people dancing. What? But that's the thing is, I was listening to some stuff today that was kind of interesting about Zelensky has not a popular dude over it with certain elements within the Ukrainian paramilitary Azov and the cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs that are in the Ukraine. Like, he wasn't some like benevolent like leader over there. Like, that dude in the Panama Papers. Do you see all that stuff?
No,
Zelensky's in the Panama Papers, and remember the Panama Papers exposed all the money and stuff. What was that, like 8, 6, 7 years ago? Zelensky's in the Panama Papers. That, you take a look at his wife, like, dude, look at Zelensky's wife, dude, and realize that dude has anywhere from $500 to $1.5 billion in the bank account, dude. And go, what's really going on here? I don't, the no agenda guys were like, they don't even think he's been sitting in Ukraine, man. I think he's in Poland. Well, Biden let it slip. Remember during the speech the other day, Biden was like, he said, he announced that a couple of the main dudes in Zelensky's cabinet were sitting in the audience that night. And Penn almost let it slip too, that I can't, blah, 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 blah. So
he's had so many gaffes at this point, it's hard to keep up. Biden, that is.
Yeah, he's a decoy too, dude, to get the whole thing. Are they gaffes?
There was ever a better case for the power elite argument that the people you see are not the people in power.
Well, I think also what you bump into, and it goes back to the first thing I said when this all kicked off, right, was that if you're a dude like Putin and you're looking at the West, you're like, these people are pathetic, dude. They elected these morons. They got a dude with bad hair, 2 metros, one doddering, drooling dude, and they're literally arguing about whether 6'4" boys should be swimming against like girls and like bathrooms and like weird stuff. That's like, yeah, that's great, dude. But like the rot in the West is so obvious. Like, but that's the irony. Like, the Ukrainians aren't rotten like that. I think that's maybe why they put it. That's why they're dropping the thing. They're pretty not woke, dude. They're pretty like anti that stuff, you know?
Yeah, I'd believe it. Definitely.
So it's that thing, is maybe that's the reason they are putting up a stiff defense, is they aren't woke.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they aren't debating which bathroom to go into.
I think that's one important thing, probably worth maybe ending on. I think this whole thing has brought into perspective that a lot of the things that we've focused our attention on in the Western world for the past 10 years, especially, has been a complete waste of thought, a complete waste of time, and a complete waste of effort. We've got a whole generation of people that have just grown up thinking that identity politics is the number one issue in the world. Well, no, it is not. We have far bigger issues, economic, military, and political. That identity politics is pretty much just a smokescreen for. And it allows those elites in those other three fields to continue working away, not really challenge their center of power at all. And it allows the people to just scream at each other instead of screaming at the people that are actually genuinely responsible for the current state of the world.
Oh, it's a genius move. I mean, that's where that's where I do look at it a little bit. If I pull back the lens, as go, okay, like, you know, as a dude, as someone who's a pretty heavy duty, like, pro healing the ecosystems of spaceship Earth guy, right? Like, I bump right into that stuff, and I could definitely view it from that perspective and be like, look, these people are so dumb. Why shouldn't they starve to death in the desert, dude? Because, or in their apartment buildings or whether, because they actually like chose a senile fool to be their leader with a track record of being a scumbag and a broker for big military, dude, a war hawk, a warmonger, hidden in the, and not even a real liberal, dude. Like, it would be one thing if the cuckoo Americans had elected a true, you know, loony liberal, dude. You're like, all right, dude, like, whatever, dude. You know, if the left had elected, you know, Ocasio-Cortez, dude, all right, like, at least you elected like a super like cuckoo for, and not that chick can put together a sentence either, but what I'm getting at is if you're one of these elite people and you're like, look, you guys have been given the power to run yourselves, and this is what you've done with it. Like I think America's failed. Like, the great experiment of America's failed because it ultimately didn't lead to empowerment. It went to cuckery, dude.
It led to Nancy Pelosi and Lindsey Graham.
Well, it led to weirdos thinking that the color of their hair is more important than the success of their communities, you know?
60 homeless people on Skid Row in LA.
Yeah, so I think that the power elites, because you could argue that America has been an experiment run by the globalists from Jump Street, right? And I think that they go, okay, they went, all right, like, let's see what you guys can do. We'll let you guys, here's your constitution, your inalienable rights, the power of God. We'll let you have God. We'll let you have all the God, the Second Amendment, the First Amendment. You just take all your God-given ownership of this realm that God granted you. Like, we won't try to hold it any back. We'll let you guys run with it, dude. And I think they sat back and were like, oh, they got a little nervous, you know, we got to get in there on the War 1812 and the Civil War. And they're like, I got to check these dudes a little bit. And then they figured it out at World War I. We're like, all right, we got to put some circuit breakers in on these people, dude. And then they're like, all right, like let's see if they'll buy into this thing. We'll do a slow creep on them. We'll see if they actually did the civil rights thing. They're about equality. How about we just like let them have a bunch of drugs and
might need to break out some of those sniper rifles as well for those civil rights people.
Yeah, and yeah. But I think that if you look at it from their perspective, they're like, you guys keep biting the hook, dude. And there's no bait, and there's not even any bait on the hook. You're literally dumb goldfish that will keep hooking themselves. It's like the squirrels. Like you guys are literally going to walk into the cage again. And if I was the elite, I wouldn't have any qualms at this point. I would be like, look, dude, like, look at the Americans, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, they're weak. Look what they're masking up their kids. They're saucing up. We're straight up feeding them propaganda with like, this is lies written across the top of it. Like, you can get the paperwork, download all the paperworks about all this stuff. And it's like written right there. Like that's what I mean is like, you pull out the inserts and all this stuff. It says right on there, like, don't do this. This is a bad idea. And people are still like, okay. And they're like, oh, this is what freedom got you, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Dumb pot smoking, beer drinking. I need to go bang people and drive around real fast on drugs. All right.
Yeah, I got to tell you, as a foreigner, this is not the image that America sells to the world, but it is the reality, I think.
Oh yeah, like I think that's the hardest part about. Like that's the hardest part about it from within is being like, yeah, like that's what we'll do with freedom, huh?
Yeah, I saw a story yesterday. Some I don't remember where it was. Some guy, father of 4, shot in the head in a road rage incident. So I think that kind of sums up America to some degree, right?
Well,
I have been wronged as an individual, therefore I'm just going to exact what I want on this other person, and that's it. I'm just going to take from them, and I'm going to carry on about my life.
Well, I think if you get to it, I think it's almost this interesting thing. It's like, right, so if you go to the Magna Carta and this fight for freedom, right? And what Runnymede and the whole thing is like this battle to be free of the oppression of the feudal lords and the monarchy and all this stuff, right? And you finally get to this thing in America, right, where they straight up go, we're no longer going to interfere with God. We're going to let you guys have a direct conduit to God. And it's like, if you really read the Constitution, it is really like, we are just reaffirming your God-given truths to run with it. Pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. Here it is. You are accountable to God and to yourself, our form of government, right? And each of you, if you take on this responsibility as individuals in this population, you can do anything you want with it, right? And you look at the thing is, people actually gave back their God-given authority and go, will you, Mr. Police Officer, will you, Mr. Pharmaceutical guy, will you, Mr. whatever, Mrs. whatever, will you be responsible for my health? Will you be responsible for my child's education? Will you be my religion? And I think that it's just that I think the power elites did this thing where they're like, here, look, we're going to get out of this on a metaphysical, spiritual level. We'll give you full, unadulterated access to God. We're not going to get in the way with running the you look at what like Northern Ireland, like the battle of the churches and Protestants versus Catholics, and you look at the Inquisitions of going over and battling the Muslims, and all this war and managed spirituality, where people controlled the spirituality and put that in the government system. And here we are in America. It's like, no, dude, it's you, God, from you, God, we of the people, by the people, for the people. Let's break the contract. Let's give you the freedom for forever and ever and ever, dude. Let's get this over with. And I think for millennia, they've been trying to control man's relationship with God. And they were like, wait a minute, we keep getting pushback on it. We keep losing. They keep nailing the 99 Thesis to the church door. They keep end running us again because they want God. How about we just give them God until they get bored and they go, God ain't good enough anymore, dude. I want some nipple piercings and some tattoos and a girlfriend that's dressed like a dude. Right. And they're like, and I think they're sitting there going like, you guys were the last hope for humanity, and you guys have turned in your God card. Like, wow. Like, all right. Like, now what?
You blew it.
You blew it. And
now what?
Yeah, now what? And that's what kind of goes back to my whole, like, the Patriots and the whole thing. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I've had a big like metamorphosis as I don't even know if I can call myself an American anymore, man. Like, I don't look at my country and my fellow citizenry with like pride. That doesn't mean I don't love my people that I live with and I'm here with, but the hubris and the idiocracy and the self-aggrandizement and just the pathetic weakness of it all just like blows my mind. Like, where I'm just like, so I'll give you a prime example. So today I had something interesting happen. So before, at the beginning of December, we had just passed our letter here at City Hall to get them about the school mandates and stuff. And I was organizing. I go, look, man, we need to get all the groups together all over the state of California, and we need to bum rush all of our elected representatives' offices on January 3rd. We need to have sit-ins and civil disobedience, and we need to show up and flex before the legislative session starts, right? Because they're going to come in hot. And I was like, and everyone's like, and I'm like, no, dude, we need to, like, leaders, like, you guys you guys are all the leaders, but you're not doing anything. And I was talking to him, and I got this call from this gal who's pretty big in the children's health defense. She's like, you know what, man, like, I'm calling you because they're actually doing what you said to do 3 months ago, dude. And it's an emergency thing, and we need your help. And I just kind of sat there, and I was like, it's like, it's too late, you guys. Like, I didn't say that, but I was sitting there being like, no, everybody's reacting to the tyranny instead of preemptively asserting their authority before the tyranny can get tracks. I go, look, dude, I told you guys we needed to bum rush them, because I kept going. The legislative session starts on January 6th. I think it was January 6th, whatever it was, in the beginning of January. And I go, we have to be there before they're in Sacramento to assert ourselves as we have the momentum, and you guys work for us. I go, dude, the 10 laws that they're trying to stop in the state of California are like, people, I don't think people have any idea how game changing they are if these laws get through in California coming up here. Like, they're gnarly, dude. Like people, I don't think people get what's going on. So, like, I look at it, and it's like, you can tell everybody all day long, but like, even the people that are claimed to be the awake activists are too soft to, like, actually, like, because I kept saying we should have teach-ins. We show up with all our kids and we commandeer their parking lots and we go to jail over this thing, right? And so I mean, I don't know if you know what's going on here in California, but like, I mean, everyone needs to know what's going. Like, it's insanity, dude. Where is it? Wait, I got to pull this up. Where is it? Where is her thing? Wait, just a second. Oh, there. Where is it? Does it come in here? Is it this? It? Where's the list? Where's the list? I got it somewhere, dude. The list of the laws that are coming down the pipes are so crazy, dude.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about.
Oh, dude, wait. Where is that thing? I'll read them to you. You'll be tripped out, dude. Okay. That's not the one. Oh, wait. Save California. I'll have it. Just a second, dude. Like, people like just don't have any idea because everyone's asleep at the wheel. Like, Bread and Circus is blue and yellow, dude. How about it's gonna get red and black over here real soon? And I'm an optimist. Like, I'm not even worried about it because I've already made peace with all of it. But where is it? But it just, I guess it goes to this thing where, like, people claim that, like, the patriots claim they're like patriots, but they're not, dude. They're a bunch of dudes just running around with, wait, Robin sent it to me. That's who sent it to me. And they don't want to actually engage the system. Like I said, we should have gone and circled the Rand Corporation building in Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm.
But why? Like, I go, dude, the headquarters to the Rand with you ever seen the statue in front of the Rand building?
Yeah, I think so.
The nuclear bomb mushroom cloud made out of chains, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, wait, here it is. Wait, hold on. Here it is. Okay, so in state of California, these are the bills that we have up in the legislature. SB 871 requires all children be sauced up for COOF at all public and private and daycares. I warned everybody. I said, dude, you think you can get them in a private school? You can't. Like, no one want to listen about that. SB 2539 require proof of saucing in order to enter public private businesses. SB 866 allows children 12 years and older to consent to saucing without parental consent or knowledge. SB 1479 requires schools to continue testing, tracing, and quarantining. SB 1464 would require law enforcement officials to enforce public health orders. SB 1464 would require law enforcement officials to enforce, AB 1993 would require, this is the gnarly one that actually got me spooked the other day. AB 1993 would require all employees be sauced in order to work in California. That's independent contractors. That's everybody who has a job in the state of California. That's literally, like, I think me as an independent contractor with AdSense and YouTube and Etsy and all that stuff, right? That's AB 1993. AB 1797 would require changes to the California immunization registry, dude, which would remove HIPAA, dude. AB 2098 would reclassify sharing of COOF misinformation by doctors resulting in disciplinary action. That's squashing all alternative cures. SB 920 authorizes medical board investigators to inspect businesses, including patient records. SB 1100 authorizes members of legislative body to remove an individual for interrupting meetings, dude. So there's 10 of these bills, like, in the California legislature right now, and people are not paying attention, dude. And I made, but if anyone had been listening to me, like, in December, I warned everybody. I go, dude, do not think that this is going away. They're going to come back tenfold hard. Do we stop these? Maybe we lose a couple of them. I don't think AB 1993 gets through the courts, though. But, you know, even
the
still,
most interesting ones for me are the ones that are going to try to stop alternative health options and stop police from resisting what the government tells it to do. I think they're probably the two biggest ones, because they saw pushback probably from some local sheriffs. I remember there were some California doctrines.
Yeah, with Villarosa was pushing back. Yeah.
And they're just trying to say, no, we are the total command and control. You will do as we say, or else.
Well,
the last video I did over on my channel was about leadership, and it was looking specifically at Joe Biden and all of his problems, saying how he wants regime change in Russia. But yeah, my overall point in that video is, where are the leaders? If Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Boris Johnson, Justin Trudeau, if these are the best people that we can conjure up for the job of leadership, our civilization is heading for the end. That's kind of the bottom line.
Oh, dude, breaking news. And I'm going to give this, sorry to interrupt you, but Oso Taylor just gave us breaking news. Oso, thank you. So one of California's most far-reaching SOS mandate bills in California will not move forward. So it looks like AB 993 was scheduled to be heard Wednesday in Assembly Committee, Labor and Employment. In an interview Tuesday, Wicks said the need for the bill could change rates. They pulled the bill, dude. That was the one I was sweating, dude.
Yeah.
Like, so again, and you know why? It's because everybody's mobilizing. Mm-hmm. And they're getting busy. But what I would say again is this is where I struggle as a member of this society, right? Who's empowered with his God-given rights that cannot be taken away or infringed upon, is we have to stop. And it goes back to what we first started talking about. We have to stop pretending that these people have our best interests at heart. They clearly do not. They clearly don't love us. They clearly hate us. They clearly want nothing but the worst from us. And it's time for us to stop waiting for them and really begin to be proactive and put them out of business. And again, as I just go, Canada was a template of how to do it, dude. And we've been getting spammed to death. I mean, trolled to death tonight. So we're obviously over the target, my brother. So it's that thing where we have to stop looking to anyone else, dude. And that's what I meant about like my thing about like the patriots and like if I take my authority as being an American, I've abdicated my authority. I have to take my authority from on high, right? It has to be beyond the borders of this. One of the great things, and let's see if you think about this. One of the great tricks they've done is they've stolen the concept of borderless society, right? And made that into something that is dangerous. When I come from a different perspective of, I believe in cultural integrity, right? I believe that you should hang on to your cultural identities and celebrate them and embrace them and share them and all that kind of stuff. But I don't believe in borders. I believe in societal cohesion, but that has been turned into this sort of globalist agenda, when really the way I see it is as long as there are borders, they can control us with their human farms, right? They get to do what they're doing in Ukraine. The only reason Ukraine's going on right now is because of arbitrary borders set aside and preemptively, and people are fighting over them. When
borders exist for you and I, they do not exist for transnational corporations.
Nope. No. And that's where, like, I've seen one of those tricks that, like, you can't really say that because you're like, well, I'm not about like people's realities being bum rushed, like our southern border or any of that. But I do believe that we have to, if we're from God, like it's, Like, right, if you look at the Tower of Babel, right, like that's why they broke it all apart, was because everybody was babbling the same babble, and they needed everyone to speak a language, so it wasn't that easy to go against God, right, or whatever it was. Like, I do believe that it's important that the one of the things that we've suffered is we've lost all these indigenous cultures around the planet, and they had all the truths, and we've allowed borders to be imposed on metaphysical truths, like, and we've dehumanized ourselves with these borders, because borders to me are not cultural integrities. Like the part of the globalist agenda is to just homogenize us, turn us into like a mutt species of like, we all eat ramen bug noodles. And
yeah, I was traveling around, going to a lot of different American cities, and kind of just the pandemic didn't help, but after a while it gets to a point where these places all pretty much look the same. They look the same, they taste the same, they smell the same. Yeah,
you've seen one strip mall, you've seen them all, man.
Yep.
And again, that's where I think that the concept of what it was that our constitutional thing got turned into nationalism, which I don't know if I necessarily, I am, but I'm not. Like, when I see what it is to be those inalienable rights, right? They're for everybody across the planet, but you start calling that America. I'm not, when I speak of America, I'm not talking about my inalienable God-given rights that are reaffirmed in the Constitution. It's not what I'm talking about, the little geographic area on the map and its weird cultural idiosyncrasies. But when I talk about what it is to be that, which I don't, it's just a human being with my affinity with God, like that reaches, that anyone can have that. Like, so I that's where I bump into, like, I think nationalism is ultimately being used against us in a bad way. And I'm not anti-nationalism either. Like, that's the weird shades of gray, right? Like the conflicting human condition. As much as I am a dude who's stoked to have his corporate flag hanging from his house, I'm quite aware of the corporation that is the United States of America, dude. I'm quite aware of all of these jurisdictions and all that stuff. I do like my country. I love my country. I love my neighbors, even though half of them are idiots. They're mine. They're my idiots, dude. Mm-hmm. They're the idiots that I am here with. And I don't know, like, if I would, look, I'm like getting ready to move into a whole new zone. Like, it's super nerve-wracking. It's a whole new group of idiots. Mm-hmm. The level of idiocracy within America is pretty extreme.
Definitely.
And I live in the cushy west side of Los Angeles and the Conejo Valley and stuff. And look, man, is these people are lefty, soft, pathetic, non-self-sustaining idiots, but they're not dumb, which is a thing, as America's pretty dumb. Which is, I mean, you see, like, Americans are dumb, dude, like, really are like dumb people.
Yeah, it's a problem back in England as well, though. I think it's the whole Western societies have pretty much fallen apart.
Yeah, it's a tough gig, man.
Yeah, it's kind of where we are. But yeah, I'm probably gonna have to call this one a wrap, anyways.
Yeah, we've been going at it strong for a couple hours, man. I don't know what we got out. I think we're just trying to figure out what it is, dude. What is actually causing the lifeboat, the ship to sink, right? Like the Titanic, they say hit an iceberg, or was it poor engineering? Or was it a plot to kill all those dudes who were, what was it, the fake ship? You ever seen the one where there's the fake, they switched the two Titanics and stuff?
No.
Look into that. It's pretty So I don't know if what is it the iceberg, or is it the fact there's like some doors open in the hull, or the Mayday call didn't call out, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's I think we both realized the ship's sinking.
Yeah, that's very true.
I just don't want to fight on the lifeboat, man.
I know, we may already be on the lifeboat. The ship may already.
Oh, we are, brother, dude. We are. Hey, Oso, I just want to thank you for making my night by telling me that bill got shelved. That's a big deal here in California, man. Like, I do think that there is a certain amount of pushback going on, which that's encouraging.
Definitely. Anything that is some degree of resistance.
You keep writing that book, brother, exposing the what we don't know, the doctrine, dude.
Yeah, it's the death robots are for peace and democracy.
The death robots for that's the
title.
Can someone make us a shirt? Hey, do we have anyone who's an artist out there? Can you make a shirt with my face and Stuart's face? That's the death robots for peace and democracy, dude. Wait, I had to write that down. That's if someone can make that's the shirt for the show, we'll sling, dude. Death robots for peace and democracy. Wait. Death robots.
That might be the book title as well, I think.
Oh yeah, for peace and democracy. Oh yeah, and democracy. Dude, I'm gonna have to. Hopefully, someone can make those. That's good. That's it. Death robots for peace and democracy. Now we just need some musicians, dude.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked to have chit-chatted with you tonight, Stuart, dude.
Yeah, glad we could finally make it happen. And yeah, anyone wants to jump on my channel, I'd appreciate it.
Dude, on that level, the first link down below is Stuart's channel. Stuart's giving you like concise, educated, not crackpot, babbling, straight, professorness versus.
I don't know. There's a bit. I get a little bit more fired up in the videos than I do in the classroom.
But that's for sure. Dude, it comes from a different. It comes from more of a research thing. I'm an intuition guy. I just translate it into you're actually can cite your work, which is admirable nowadays, dude. So
yeah, I mean, but I think we need a bit of both though. We need intuition and
well, that's what we're here. Well, that's it. It's two dudes who want war to stop on this planet. And that's really what we're about, brother. And we believe that we have more power than people are letting on, man. So I'm just grateful to know you and be on this journey with you
too. Yeah, and like I've been watching your videos for I don't know 8 years, something like that.
Yeah, we've been doing it together, brother. Like here we are, man. We got the same colored room too.
Yeah.
Good night,
Stars are aligning.
See you on the next one.
Yeah, see you, Hamish.
All right, bye.